High schoolers of Reddit, what is the biggest "oh crap, something's about to go down" moment that you've experienced with either students, teachers, or even both? So, officers of discipline in my high school let 2 students box, literally with boxing gloves, atop of the quadrangle stage. The officers, among them teachers too, did that to let the kids settle their little fights beforehand. These officers tasked other students to film it, so the students did. These officers also tasked them to upload it on Facebook. Needless to say, it made the national news. Next story. Not currently in high school, but when I was a freshman, there were a few before moving schools. Topping the list was definitely when a kid wouldn't take his hat off of his head, so a screaming match started. Teacher takes hat off a kid, kid throws a chair at the teacher puts hat in microwave and turns it on, kid dumps deer urine on teacher. This was in South Carolina and he had plans to go hunting that evening, not just carrying around deer piss for funsies. But anyway, that teacher was put on leave during a lawsuit, and the temp teacher was a family friend who cheated on her husband and was going through divorce. Her son was also in the class. That made things interesting. Next story. We had a legitimate food fight in 8th grade. I remember the rumors being spread around, and then the girl standing up on the table and yelling, "Food fight!" The moment the first few people started throwing food was the moment I knew crap was going down. We had to eat lunch in classrooms in complete silence for the rest of the year. All field trips canceled, but worth it. Okay, everybody, so I don't know if I've ever done a video like this before directed straight at high schoolers. I suppose that this video will make me feel old, and maybe some of you, I don't know. We'll probably also just get a lot of people just reminiscing on their days in high school, but I never got to have a food fight, and I kind of wish I did, but if this was the consequence, then maybe I'm glad it didn't happen, but part of me still kind of wish it did happen. But anyway, next story. So, a kid got another kid's girlfriend pregnant without their knowledge. Kid thinks he can keep it a secret. Girlfriend rats him out. The next day at school, everyone hears screaming from the hallway before the first bell rang. This kid got beaten to a pulp, got his jaw broken, and broke his nose. It took 4 security guards to restrain the enraged boyfriend from beating the crap out of this kid. The girlfriend stood there and had an expression of WTF on her face. Next story. My neighbor's Karen of a grandmother came storming over to my school bus while we were still in the parking lot. The driver hadn't even closed the doors yet, so she got on the bus. My brother was sat on the back. I was at the front, just behind the door. Karen starts screaming at my brother while the bus driver tries to keep her from getting on the bus. My brother starts screaming back. She's accusing him of bullying her granddaughter, our neighbor, and she tells him to get off the bus so she can beat him or something. I don't even know. Then he stands up as if to say, "Go on then." Then school security comes over and pulls her away. The bus driver closes the door, and we leave. Fun. Next story. A female student's mother came into class in the 6th grade to confront the teacher about her child being in detention, even though she brought a note for why she couldn't do PE that day. All I remember, aside from this student's mother yelling at our teacher, was her saying she wanted to take our teacher outside. Our teacher asked if it was okay with us if she did go outside. We stupidly all said yes, not knowing what it meant. In the end, she had one of us kids run and get our principal. They ended up arguing outside. We heard it all. The parent was a complete psycho with a daughter that had lots of attitude and personal problems. Poor kid. Hope she turned out all right. Teacher resigned the following year and never went back. Hardly blame her. Okay, so this reminds me of a time where I had, I think, a history teacher. And, you know, there's always that one student who's just a problem maker for one reason or another. And this teacher, first off, never remembered my last name after I left that class. He would always call me by something else. But one time, him and the problem student go out into the hall and they start like arguing and like raising voices. And like, you can't exactly hear it. But then like one other student like puts his ear up to the wall. And he's like, "Oh man, they arguing." And we're like, "What? Oh man, they get mad. Hey, yo, bro, they fighting." And we're like, "What?" And he's like, "Nah, they ain't fighting, but they mad at each other." Oh, that was so funny. He had a grip on us. Oh my God. But anyway, next story. So, in 3rd grade, I remember there was a girl who had anger issues because of some sort of mental problem. One day in class, she was really behind on work and seemed really stressed, muttering to herself. I don't remember what the teacher said, but this girl just effing snapped. She just flipped her desk and grabbed the teacher by the throat and was like, "Now you listen to me," or something, and started going off. Everyone just sat there shocked, but looking back, it's actually a pretty funny sight. A small, chubby 3rd grader just scaring the crap out of a grown-ass woman. She ended up getting sent to a special school or something. It's kind of a shame because I talked to her in art class once and she was actually a really nice person. It was just clear that she had some issues and would snap sometimes. Never heard about her again. Next story. I remember we had to shut lunch down early and they played an alarm, all because a mini riot started. Our school integrated an everyone eats at once lunch called One Lunch, and within the month, we had issues. A guy slapped a girl who was talking crap, and then a bunch of her guy friends started to fight him. This escalated to the point where random people were getting tossed into the mix, and our resource officers couldn't handle it. Smaller fights started to break out in the hallways until they shut down lunch. And the alarm scared the crap out of us. We all thought there was a shooter or something. Edit. The way our lunch system worked was everyone, about 2,000 students, had an hour to get their lunch, and they could go anywhere in the school to eat. Before that, we had lunch periods during our third class of the day where they would split it up in 4 small periods and you had to stay in the cafeteria. Next story. So, there was a fist fight in the snow one year, and at one point, one guy got his shirt ripped, so he stopped the fight to take his shirt off and handed it to one of us to hold so it wasn't just sitting in a pile of snow. As that was happening, the other dude punched him in the back of the head. Ripped Shirt responded by whipping out a knife just to end the fight because the other guy basically fought with no honor. The head puncher, he ran away. But then, soon came back with a big-ass friend, and they started chucking nearby firewood at Knifey Micro Shirt until he biked off. The rest of us were dying laughing the whole time because it was silly how much it escalated. I was late to class, but I just pointed out the window at where we were and said, "Oh, sorry, there was a knife fight," and fell into the lesson with everyone in shock. Next story. Not currently in high school, but we had fights all the time. The resource security officer jumped on a lunch table, stepped on 2 kids' lunch trays, and launched himself at one of the kids, about to sock another kid in the jaw. Everyone went down on the floor, and the officer had to wrestle the instigator off of the other kid. A food fight started amid this due to the 2 lunch trays that were stepped on flying off the table and hitting another kid in the back. It was pure comedy that a script writer couldn't have made better. Next story. The nerd table. Reddit, we're looking at you. And the football player table had a long-running tradition of throwing stuff at each other during lunchtime. One day, my best friend chucked a thing of McDonald's barbecue sauce, and it exploded all over his shirt. The football coach/lunch teacher ran over, bright red with smoke coming out of his ears, while a distraught football player with red stuff all over his shirt was screaming at us. Then the coach gets to us and yells, "Who did that?" And we were all cowards and ratted out our friend. And he yells, "Effing nerds," and flips our table, ruining lunch. Plus, we had to clean it up. We saw our friend again, but he was a different man, a quieter man. But he was the man. Next story. At the homecoming bonfire, where it was a tradition to teepee or spray shaving cream on the incoming class of freshmen, there was something in the air that October, something darker than usual and the hint of winter air that told of trouble on the way. When the field lights went off and the fire was high, people also started throwing around eggs, punctured bottles of mayonnaise, and water balloons filled with Nair, calling for the death of kids who had the audacity to be freshmen? The dean was not happy. The teachers were not happy. The police had to show up to get things in hand, and they were not happy. Neither were a lot of male sophomores and juniors who looked like freshmen who lost some hair that night. At least the folks wilding out didn't, to my recollection, target any young ladies for epilating. There were definitely some with tear streaks of mascara running over the mayonnaise on their faces, though. Next story. School's in the middle of Wisconsin. A hick who was known for being in trouble all the time in my high school was sitting in the cafeteria at lunchtime and dropped the N-bomb on one of the few people of color in the school. What this kid didn't know is that the guy he had just used a slur on came from the south side of Chicago. That kid got ripped off his seat and stomped on as hard as possible for about a full minute. We could see blood pooling under the table when he was finally separated from the attacker. He was taken out of the school by the first responders, where he had 5 facial reconstruction surgeries. Next story. One more. This one was actually me. This one needs some backstory, though. I was in middle school, and I was in advanced math class, so I went to the high school every morning for math. And we had to take a bus back to the middle school for the rest of the day. And this bus driver was always late. And plus, this bus was so small that some of the kids had to sit on the floor. And there were like some 40 kids screaming and yelling. So one day, like every other, she pulls up 10 minutes late. And as normal, we crowd on the bus, pushing and shoving for a seat. So she stands in the aisle blocking and yells that if we crowd on the bus one more time like this, we will all have to walk to the middle school. And mind you, this was already a 10-minute drive. So out of my stupidity, I yell, "I will!" So she pulled me aside, kicked me off the bus, and drove away. And my mom had to come pick me up. Next story. I went to a South Side school in Chicago, mainly with Hispanics, blacks, and Asians. This was middle school, by the way. One time, this boy, let's name him Tony, and this girl, Jean, had beef. She was constantly talking so much crap, and Tony pushed this girl so hard, he shifted all of the 4 desk tables in the room. Then he grabbed her hair and started dragging her across the room and started started to throw punches. Then, another time during recess, police officers came and arrested my Spanish teacher. He was like a 300 to 400 pound Mexican guy who was always really kind to the students. He used to tickle me when I was in 6th and 7th grade, then only to find out he was grabbing girls' boobs, self-pleasuring himself in class, and just sexually harassed girls. Then, my ex-boyfriend at the time cussed my reading teacher out and made her cry. He called her a fat B-word that doesn't know how to do anything but look like an effing pear. Funny thing was, he was Asian and the valedictorian of our graduating class. And then another time during recess, the tallest black girl from my class and a black little person started fighting. The little person still won. He was swinging on her as hard as hell with them little ass legs. Next story. In 8th grade English class, my teacher didn't speak Spanish, obviously. The teacher is strict. When I say strict, I mean like the kind of teacher to kick a kid out of a classroom because he sneezed during a test. So, one of the quiet kids said some weird Spanish word under his breath, and this teacher went ape crap on him. "We only speak proper English in this class. What did you just say?" In a tone like a Karen. And with the smuggest look on his face, he screams, "In English, it means you're a B-word." And she went effing ballistic on him. Next story. Not high school, but community college. Not long after the Virginia Tech shooting, there was this massive idiot in my criminal justice department. Big, dumb, fat, spoke with a drawl like he was straight out of Central Texas, yet had lived his entire life in the suburbs of Portland. Very conservative, highly opinionated, and temperamental. Also, a barely functional alcoholic and occasional party drug user. Well, he had the hots for this one woman who was on the school newspaper, who was the exact opposite. Athletic, intelligent, witty, very progressive, easygoing, and friendly. She did not appreciate his intentions. One day, he came on a little too strong and she verbally eviscerated him, quite publicly in the school cafeteria. He was incredibly embarrassed and it broke something in him. He got more temperamental, got in fights outside of school, and started writing some really disturbing things on MySpace and Facebook. Tells you how long ago this was. Then one day, he didn't show up for class, but he was on Facebook, and he posted a statement that told all of us that crap was about to go down. I will never forget his words, because it was the first time I actually felt unsafe at school. "Ava Marie would make a great soundtrack for a shooting spree. It really inspires creativity." He said that. Several of us CJ students were in our semi-private computer lab and immediately recognized this as a potential threat. So we quickly called up campus safety and had them meet us at the dean's office. We showed them the post, plus several others that were of a violent or threatening nature. And like I said, this wasn't long after Virginia Tech, like 6 months or so. The school took this very seriously and immediately contacted the county sheriff. They, in turn, also took it seriously and added several deputies to campus for the rest of the day while they did the needful with warrants to have a talk with this guy. And I don't know exactly what happened when they showed up, but the guy was taken in on an involuntary psych hold. Several guns and a lot of ammo was confiscated, as well as some bomb-making materials and several spiral notebooks filled with hate screeds, lists of students and staff to kill or leave alone. My name was on his kill list, and several maps of the campus that included hand-drawn notes on shooting lanes, building entrances, exits, where students congregated, and where responding cops would come from. Then he was expelled about as soon as they could make it happen. Ended up with a couple of minor criminal charges related to the bomb materials, did a couple of months in jail, and then moved away, apparently to Arizona. Haven't seen or heard from him since. TLDR, bullet quite literally dodged. Next story. On the Friday before spring break, we were on the bus home. Some kid in the back threw a candy bar wrapper out the window. This wrapper happened to brush up against the truck of this dad, and he was behind the bus having picked his daughter up in carpool. He then proceeded to follow our bus, honking and flashing all the way to the first bus stop. As one of the kids began to get off of the bus, this dude storms up, shoves the kid back onto the bus, boards the bus, and begins to start screaming cuss words. He then threatens the bus driver not to leave since he is on the phone with the police. So he goes back and sits in his truck while we all sit on the bus. Our bus driver told us not to get off since she was genuinely afraid this dude would cause some physical harm if they did. So we sat on the bus for a good half hour. Mind you, spring break in for our county in North Carolina is later than most schools. It was hot, it was a sunny day, and school buses aren't known for excellent AC. So we were all sitting in the bus, cooking. The kids in the back are yelling at the truck dude out the window. Someone recognized the dude's daughter, who had proceeded to cover her face in embarrassment. Eventually, these three guys had enough. They open the emergency door in the back, hop out, and run. Unfortunately, that's right when a motorcycle cop finally rolls up. The truck dude tackles one kid, the cop another. The third managed to get away, and he sprinted all the way to his house. The cop then talks to the kids, the dude, and lastly the bus driver. He sent the bus on its way within 5 minutes. Word got around, and it turns out the dude got a very stern talking to from the cop for trespassing on county/school property and using explicit language in the presence of minors. Next story. This was actually in 7th grade, but during Spanish class, 2 students started arguing over some stupid bullcrap. Usually would just be verbal arguments, but things started to escalate shortly after it started. The girl came over to the boy and said, "Say it to my face." After some more verbal arguing, they started hitting each other. Well, I don't remember exactly who it was. One of the two got a chair and was about to throw it at the other. What baffles me the most is that our sub-Spanish teacher was there the entire time and was going along with the kids when they were verbally arguing. Instead of, breaking the kids up when it got physical, he ran outside to get someone, which he could have done after. So yeah, some kids had to separate the two. Then, and this is unrelated, but me and my friends ended up getting him fired since we told our school counselor, who we were very familiar with, that he had called us stupid in class, which was indeed true. Next story. There was this really annoying kid that would always walk around like he owned the school. Like, so annoying. Anyways, one day he comes waltzing into the band room and just starts banging on the drums. There's a rule in our band room to not touch percussion instruments unless you're a percussionist. This kid was not. So we're sitting there watching him mess with the drums, and this color guard girl goes into the back, comes back with her gun thing that they twirl around, not sure what it's called, and she just hits him with it. And so he runs, and she chases after him. It was legit. Next story. I've posted this before, but this happened either in my junior or senior year of high school. New principal, a woman, banned female students from bringing in their own pads and tampons due to some students sneaking drugs inside of them. So if a female student needed one, they would have to go to the nurse's office, ask for a bathroom pass, then finally go back to the bathroom, and lastly, back to class. It took forever. So teachers, even the males, hid pads and tampons in their desk to make it easier. Yet, they soon also got banned to have stockpiles of them. And then, the WTF moment was when the principal installed the red pants rule. If a female student or staff member had a period leak that stained their clothing, they had to go to the nurse's office for dark red sweatpants, part of our school colors, and wear them till they got home. And it just caused more bullying and became a game to some people. Try to spill red drinks on people or putting reddish-brown paint on chairs for people to sit in. Students, staff, and parents threatened to sue the school and the principal, and people wore fake stains on their pants, even the guys, to protest. Principal got rid of the rule and quit her job. Okay, I'm not a woman, but I'm an empathetic guy. I'm just enraged at this stupidity. It's not even from like a guy who just doesn't understand biology. It's from a woman. If I was a parent and I heard about this rule, oh my God, I would probably call somebody, let's be honest. But then I would probably threaten to beat someone up. Maybe, not really. I could be joking, or I could not. But that is some absolute bull. I mean, I don't know when this took place, but I'm sure if this was today, some mom would go on Facebook and it would spread around, and the district school person would probably get right on top of that controversy. That is a PR nightmare. Anyway, next story. Islamic Lebanese refugee whose locker was full of Hezbollah kill for Allah propaganda. This was well before 9/11. Came to school purposefully walking with a significant length of metal pipe prowling the halls, clearly looking for someone. Well, he found him, just as I was bolting for someone big enough to take down this fully adult human being who was reaching back into high school because of refugee/needed his diploma status. And he just effing went for some other dude. I missed when he found the guy because I, like many, were scrambling going, "Oh crap, Muhammad," yes, that was his name, "is about to effing lose it," but I did see the aftermath. There was blood everywhere. I'm glad I didn't see it, because 21 to 22-year-old wailing on a 15-year-old can do significant damage. Needless to say, that was the last time I saw Muhammad. Many years later, and after 9/11, I asked whatever the hell happened to that effing lunatic from a classmate who was likely the only other Muslim in school and had attempted to befriend him, and he got really sad. Apparently, the dude went home and told his father he had bought a ticket to Lebanon to join the cause, and his father was like, "The hell you are? I risked death to get you, me, and this family out of there. I tried to get us away from that sickening nonsense. What the hell is wrong with you?" Muhammad then shot his father for standing in his way, then got on a plane and was never seen again. Later, when 2 planes slammed into buildings on that fateful day, I was like, dude, I know the kind of effing person who does that crap. Stone cold effing psychopath. Next story. At my school, we had a variety of different cultures, but two major ones. People from these cultures often got into fistfights. But what was funny was that one would take off their shirts to fight and the other would take off their shoes. So we'd always have shirtless guys fighting shoeless guys. So ridiculous. So if you saw someone slipping off their shoes or taking off their shirt, crap was about to go down. But yeah, this is also an alternative way of saying my school had some pretty big race issues. Next story. 20 minutes before school let out one day, a kid figured out the code to use the two-way phone/intercom in a classroom and made a comment about our school liaison police officer and said, "Officer Latini can go suck on a wang." Days immediately followed were like a movie. Literally everyone was talking about the incident. Next story. So we had a substitute teacher who didn't know that one of the kids liked to pace around in the classroom. Teacher told the kid to sit down multiple times, but the kid would keep responding with "I'm not a dog," until the substitute threatened to report him to the dean. He then yelled, "Okay, you deserve this," and reached into his bag, but he was just effing with everyone. But it was terrifying. Next story. Our school was in the middle of transitioning from one administration to the other. The soon-to-be admin put the previous one in bad taste, but everyone liked the previous one and would rather not have the new admin. They held a school gathering and one student confronted the new school president through a mic at a Q&A, and everyone went berserk in that auditorium. Luckily, no one got suspended, but the new admin's still crappy by the time I graduated. So this story reminds me of something that happened while I was in high school. We had 3 different scheduling systems for the 4 years I was in high school. We had the original one freshman year, then we switched sophomore year, and then we had another one junior year, or maybe it was the other way around. I don't know, but we just, the schedules were never consistent, and I hated it, and our valedictorian even made a joke about it, and I'm like, you know what? She gets us. She's cool. She's all right. Anyway, next story. Well, my buddy fighting another kid behind our high school. Probably about 50 people showed up and were circling them as they were 2 of the biggest and roughest guys in school. Anyways, they started fighting with some blows and they were exchanged and a wild police car literally drove through some bushes, apparently knowing the fight was going to take place with its sirens blaring. Everyone ran. Next story. Student. The 2 smartest kids in school got into a fight about a math equation. The first one put a savage roast on the other, but I can't remember it, and then the second one put him through an effing table. Turns out, neither were right about the math equation. Next story. There was a refugee family from Sudan who moved to where I lived, a mom with 5 sons. I went to school with the 2 older sons in high school and became good friends with them. One day, a kid who was known to be racist decides to go at one of them and drops an N-bomb, as well as a couple of other racial demeaning comments. Me, I go to fight the racist, so my friend doesn't have extra issues because of recently coming to Canada. He took 2 steps and head kicked the guy and dropped him. The guy goes to get back up and then eats another hard kick, and now I'm trying to hold my friend back from killing the guy, and the racist got kicked out. Apparently the school district got tired of his crap and all that happened to my friend was missing 2 days of school. RCMP decided not to press charges because of the known nature of the racist, who would go out to native reserves to try and intentionally start fights. Next story. I was close friends with someone who had some anger issues. He was also black belt in karate, which is important later on. We hung out all the time after school though, but went to different schools. So he had just transferred over to my high school sophomore year, I think. We both had similar classes, which I was happy about. Keep in mind, he has anger issues. So first day we're coming into class side by side, and someone behind us just blurts out, "Hey new kid, who's your boyfriend?" At first, he ignores him, but this dude just keeps harassing my friend. I tell my friend to just ignore him, but he keeps going on. Eventually, my friend just snaps, and he just Mike Tysons this dude in the nose. He goes to the floor, and my friend just starts beating the crap out of this man. Of course, I'm freaking out because my closest friend might get expelled, so me and a few other people separate the two. My friend is really strong, and they both go to the principal's office. Remarkably, they both get to walk away with a 2-week suspension, but it was still crazy. Next story. So this girl in my older sister's class, known for being a big old B-word, was just sitting down ignoring the substitute teacher they had that day. The teacher caught her falling asleep and cursing her under her breath multiple times, but the sub was pretty chill, so she let it slide. She did it so many more times though that she snapped and yelled at her. The whole class went quiet. Apparently, the guy sitting behind that B word tied her shoelaces together, though. This girl was so out of focus and angry, she didn't even notice. So she flipped off the teacher and started to storm out of the room, and I'm sure you can guess what happened next. Next story. Our high school was under construction my senior year, so we had to park in the neighboring streets or the middle school parking lot. I parked in the middle school lot one day and was heading to lunch, which didn't leave me much time to get a bite and get back for class. Lunch hour was the same time the middle school kids would all be outside for recess. Me and a few friends have to drive the long way around the one-way parking lot, but all of these kids are coming in from recess. So I'm almost to the exit and noticed the middle school principal running after my car screaming. I say screw it and just keep going. The next day, I'm called to the principal's office and given a $500 fine and 8 points off of my license for reckless endangerment of people or property. I ended up getting a lawyer and going to trial to fight the bullcrap charges and won. Middle school principal didn't acknowledge my existence after I beat his ass in court. Next story. So my high school was pretty chill. Maybe it was because it was catered to be more like a family aura rather than the cliquish, snobbish stereotype you see in movies. Not to say there were about a handful of the classic queen itches, but about the only time I can recall when crap was about to go down was when I, then a part of the freshman class, and my classmates won the field day competition at our school. The seniors flipped out. Why? Since they were graduating and had not won a single field day the previous 3 years, they felt they had priority and should win by default. They literally started throwing leftover pie tins full of whipped cream and water balloons at the sophomores and half the junior class who supported the fact that the freshmen won fair and square. Freshmen were also targeted. Basically, it was a nasty mess. My friends and I were never nailed, thank God, but it was a pretty nasty aftermath. It looked like a tornado made of whipped cream and balloon parts hit. And the biggest insult? To prevent anarchy from arising, the school gave the win to the seniors. Oh man. Our class made a point of sending them a video the next field day that we won as sophomores. Next story. My friend, who was into drugs and smoking sophomore year and junior year, was challenged to a 3v3 to see who was the toughest in the high school. And as a knot, next to the school is a large park with a giant empty concrete square in the middle of the grass. They walked over to the park and so did 60 or 70 so students to record the fight. Then my friend and his 2 other friends fought fist to fist, but one of the kids on the other side had a switchblade. And then when people saw that blade, crap got real. The blade was grabbed out of the senior's hand while he was being punched and threw the switchblade into the forest. The kid that had the switchblade tried to run away, but they caught up to him and started beating him into the concrete floor. Needless to say, concrete and bones aren't a good match. The switchblade kid got a fractured skull and was bleeding from his nose and ear after the fight. And his other 2 druggy friends ran away after they saw what happened. My friend was charged for the fight and went to juvie for 5 months. I know people recorded it, but it occurred over 2 years ago. Next story. Used to have this best friend. She was, but frankly, a B-word. We fell out because she accused me of talking badly behind her back. Well, after a lengthy argument of her being her usual self, calling me ugly, telling me to harm myself, saying I need to get a life, etc., I get to school. Then I walk into the canopy outside my class, and she walks up to me, and I just think, oh great, and she starts screaming in my face, "Come on, scrap me! You want to scrap?" To which I reply, "Will you piss off?" And she just says the same thing back to me, even though I wasn't the one shouting in her face. I'd say until she went away I was particularly calm, but I lost it when she walked off into class. And this type of thing carried on for 2 more days. Safe to say, though, she didn't do anything. Next story. I mentored inner-city kids in college. They were generally nice kids, but they liked to fight and cuss for fun. Sometimes the boys would just take on, pack mentally, and challenge each other for dominance. Anyways, we had this one 8th grader that was like 5'10", 200 pounds, and shredded. Usually a pretty docile kid. This one day, he came in a very bad mood. All day he was disobedient. I left the room briefly to help another kid, and when I came back up, he was yelling at a couple of mentors. I slowly walked up behind him just in case something went down, and this kid had at least 4 inches on me. Suddenly, he flexes really quickly at one of the mentors, which prompts me to put my hands on his shoulder. He turned around faster than I could process and shoved me 2 hands in the chest and sent me flying into desks. I prepared for impact as he cocked his fist back to follow up. Then, just as fast, one of the larger mentors swallowed him up in a full Nelson. He fought to free himself, and the entirety of his anger was directed at me. But soon, it was at the arms holding him, and then everyone. The frustration overtook him, and he started crying. They walked him out to calm him down. Turns out, he had a really rough day in class. Funny thing is, I had to have a conference with his mom and the program director where his mom told us that I put my hands on her child, and that could never happen again. Parents can be crazy. 2 days later, it was like nothing had happened. The kid picked me for his football team for yard day. Next story. I left 7th period early one day just because I was tired of being there. Come into our school's open communal area, and 2 of the super hot girls from the cool group are arguing. Then, slap. I got to watch these 2 incredibly hot girls fight for like all of 15 minutes. Just me. And I'm talking rolling around on the grass, pulling hair, punches, all of it. Was a busy night that night. Next story. During senior year in my math class, there was a girl, let's say girl 1 and girl 2, I knew, who came up to this other girl who was sitting at her desk and started talking crap to her. I don't remember the exact reason, honestly, but anybody who had heard it must have thought they weren't being serious, including myself. Then, girl 2 stood up and got in girl 1's face and starts talking crap back. At this point, most likely all of us thought, no way, they're actually gonna fight? But nah, they started grabbing and fighting each other. Then our teacher was an old small Asian lady, super cool, loved to fit in with the kids and was a tough lady. She was telling them beforehand, okay, enough, but that didn't work. So she tried to break them up and we were just all watching like, holy crap, in the classroom? The teacher ended up getting knocked down and hitting the wall while the 2 girls were still fighting. As soon as she fell, I and some other dudes immediately jumped up and tried pulling the girls apart. It was stupidly tough, but eventually we pulled them apart and the security came to take them to the office. The teacher was okay, a little hurt, but still went on to teach for the remainder of the period. Next story. When I was in high school, we had a little snack bar in the side of the cafeteria. You could go up and buy a Pepsi or candy or whatever. So I'm walking to this snack bar one day and notice a dispute at the table closest to it. These 2 kids are not yelling, but having a very stern talk. Nothing too usual about it yet so far. Then, right as I'm passing by, the one kid very calmly stands up, takes his plate, and knocks it vertically against the table to shake the food off. And I'm thinking, oh, it's about to go down. And sure enough, after he calmly knocks his plate clean, he whips around and backhands the plate against the other guy's face. The calm and collected preparation for the attack was just hilarious, and I was straight up laughing as these 2 kids were suddenly swarmed by teachers and pulled apart. Next story. When I first moved, my boyfriend scooped me up ASAP. I was friends with another dude who liked me, and his friends found out about his crush on me and legit bullied him to steal me back. Well, my group was vibing in the hallway at our normal spot on 4th, and then we saw his group coming all the way up from the 1st floor. It was effing awful seeing that we were outnumbered. The guy's friend wanted to fight my boyfriend for stealing his boy's girl. Needless to say, they left after realizing that the main man isn't the strong guy he pretends to be, and is all talk. No actual fight went down, and a teacher ended up telling them to go back down after hearing the arguing. I'm still cool with the guy who used to like me. His friend can go fall down the stairs, though. Then, after that, some rumors got spread around calling me a furry. I draw cats and animal portraits, and apparently that I'm a necrophiliac. Whatever. Okay, so, we've been to public school. Kids can do and say cruel and weird and peculiar things. I don't know if I've ever seen somebody face necrophilia allegations. That's a new one. I suppose that younger generations are still finding ways to improve and sharpen the sword that is juvenile behavior. Anyway, next story. Okay, so one day me and my friends were just eating lunch and suddenly this senior comes running past down a hallway and suddenly goes shock still and crumples and is then dogpiled on by like 3 cops who were chasing him. Apparently, him and his friend were caught with pills in their backpacks. His friend surrendered, but he ran, got tased, and tackled by the police. Stuff like this was super rare at my high school. It was in a mid to upper class middle neighborhood. Next story. Everyone's starting running around after a loud bang from across the street. Turns out someone was told that they can't have balloons on the bus, so they let them go and they hit the electric lines and exploded into a big ball of flames. I was just vibing in the front lobby waiting on my sister to arrive so I could drive her home. Freaked me out because I didn't hear a thing until students started screaming and banging on the locked lobby doors. Not really an oh crap moment, but definitely close enough. Next story. This happened in middle school, but here goes. We had this wonderful, may I say, Latin teacher who got a surgery done on her shoulder. She was out for maybe a month when she finally came back. She was not the same person. Jittery, eyes all glossed over, slurred speech. Needless to say, we all knew that was the last time we would see her. It is rumored that she got addicted to painkillers, and I feel that there is some substance to this claim. Then, for the rest of the 7th and half of 8th grade, they basically cycled through a bunch of Latin teachers. Some good, some bad, who had to leave for various reasons. There was one who we only had for 2 classes, where we all had an "oh crap, this again? This lady is about to get one hell of a boot" moment. Her home screen was a picture of her mostly naked as a teenager surfing, and she focused on only the sexual aspects of mythology. Perhaps worst of all, there was this guy with long hair in the class who went to move a stack of books off of a desk, and she goes, "Oh honey, that's a man's work. We women are not supposed to do a man's work." Good riddance. And I just want to add that the Latin teacher they did get for the high school has cared for me and my education more than anyone in the past. Happy ending for all of you. Next story. Ex-high schooler here. My class had a substitute teacher that was probably one of the best teachers I've had. So everyone is being noisy idiots, and this sub didn't like that, so he grabbed one of those long rulers and smacked the table so hard with it, it broke. And while he did that, he yelled "shut up" and actually made the class silent and made them listen to the lecture. Never have I seen a substitute make a class that silent that fast. Next story. I'm in England, and I'm not sure what you Yanks think high school is, but I was about year 10 and I was in English class. I go to a special needs school and some of the kids are unique. There's always that one hulk of a kid at every school, though. Just imagine it twice the size and mass and a foot taller. Well, for me, that's Trevor, and he hates English. He also happens to be adopted. He's a genuinely nice guy, and I get along with him really well. We play Rainbow Six Siege outside of school all the time. You just don't get him angry, though. Full stop. Anyway, he was on his phone in the corner ignoring the staff that came up to him, asking him to do some work. When they started using force to remove the phone, he started getting really pissed off then and telling everyone to F off. And that's when we all got up and moved over to the other side of the room. Then the arsehole PE teacher walks in and goes, "Trev, give us the phone or we're calling your parents." Really bad move on his part. We, the students, had all spent a few years with this kid by now, and we were already out the door, but the room was silent. Then, in response to the other teacher saying, "We'll call your parents," the math teacher butts in and says, "Well, that's if we can find your parents." And this is when we were all like, "Oh, hell effing no, we need to go." And the room is dead silent. The look on Trevor's face genuinely made my heart drop with dread. Then he sends a desk flying into the PE teacher's chest and turns to headbutt the math teacher in the nose. Blood was gushing out. Then the teachers from down the corridor pushed us away, trying to get in to restrain him. The scene was like when someone gets caught by walkers in The Walking Dead, just people jumping on the poor guy. That's all we saw. Next story. Ooh, I got a juicy one. Sophomore year. Many of our best musicians in the band, including myself, were in the highly gifted program. At the end of the year, several of us had problems fitting classes into our schedule because our track gets much more narrow as upperclassmen. Well, the counselor for the highly gifted kids finally snapped, and in a private email to the band director said she wouldn't put any HG kids in band because foreign language looks better for college and music classes aren't as important. Well, a kid happened to see the email when he was in her office the next day, and word spreads fast. A huge group of band kids, HG and not, got together to defend the band director and the program, but several HG kids who weren't in music accused them of vilifying the counselor. Meanwhile, several heated emails had been sent back and forth between them. Then one day after school, I went up to the music wing to grab my instrument, and I saw them in the band director's office arguing like it was life or death. I got my instrument and left as quickly as I could. I did not want to get in the middle of that. Next story. 2 cops came for an assembly to talk to us about the dangers of vaping because it had become such a problem. One of the edgy popular kids got called on and asked, "Why are you wasting time looking for kids vaping when there's actual criminals out there?" And almost the entire auditorium began clapping. But I didn't. I knew where that was headed. And at the time, I was thinking of SA in high school and the kids doing harder drugs than their dumb way of getting a nicotine addiction. But looking back on it, I think he was making a racist jab. Next story. 1990s. Some guy who had been booted from school came back onto school grounds to settle a score with a junkie student. The trespassing kid was your typical 1990s low-level drug dealer kid. Tracksuit pants, Nikes, etc. I think the junkie owed him a drug debt or something. Well, Street Fighter 2 was popular at the time. The dealer guy was trying to fight like Guile, throwing those reverse back knuckles at the junkie and missing. Finally, the junkie throws a punch and decks him, and that was that. Next story. A student was talking about a coach's daughter. She's little and he was starting to get vulgar. The football coach is built. 5'10", I believe 250 pounds of pure muscle. And this coach walks behind him and heard what he said. This was at lunchtime. So, needless to say, the kid didn't see it coming. And by that I mean the teacher put the kid's face in his food, then picked him up and made him say sorry. Coach got fired from being the disciplinary teacher, but still a coach though. Don't ask me how, I don't know. But the best coach we had never yelled or got mad. But you just don't mess with his family. So, first off everybody, 2 stories ago, I have no idea how to pronounce that Street Fighter character's name. Guile, Guili, Glulu, Gillette, Gagaga, I don't know. Continuing, however, I would like to say that this has been a pretty fun video. I had the option to record 3 different stories today and I chose this one and I'm glad I did. And it also was just fun and I liked seeing the drama, and thankfully none of the stories, or most of the stories here, were not incredibly depressing, because we have that sometimes and oh my god, my heart hurts after leaving the recording booth. But not today. We had fun. I hope you guys did, because I know I did. But anyway guys, thank you all so much for watching, commenting, have a really good day, and bye-bye!